through storms, unshaken, unbowed. From trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it aloud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules, a new dawn's day. From the hands of the few, to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Changing the wind, it's coming fast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Crazy Kryptonaut this evening. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Friday. And I am. I don't know what it is about that song about Trump, but it gets stuck in my head all the time. And I have a hard time turning it off whenever I'm using it as the introduction. I want to keep listening. And so I hope everyone is. I hope everyone is. And what's up, Crazy Chester? Thank you so much for joining. Deborah, hey, Deborah, I'm so glad that you made it. And I absolutely will say that I have definitely been failing on getting responses out on Discord this week. No excuse besides I've just been so busy. I've been focused on everything else. I'm spending a lot of time talking to veterinarians. And so that is my apologies, Deborah. I have missed it. I will go check, though. And now I know. And so I will be checking right after the stream. Kukla, thank you for everything you do. And thank you so much for being here as always. I am sorry that I opened the room so late. I was in a business meeting. It was actually a very, very, very good one. Lots of good conversations being had, but unfortunately, it went a little too long. But thank you, and thank you for being here. What's up, Captain Spiffy? And I'm going to go ahead and try to play the same game he does to me and bring him on while he's looking down at his phone. And we also have theOriginalMarkZ here with us for this evening's stream.
I figure he keeps bailing me out. I owed him one.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it, Pops. I appreciate it. And it really would be a lot more fun because the news on the crypto side, there's a lot of technicalities to dig into, but really the entire news cycle has been taken over by the debate.
No, yeah, even yesterday's SEC actually really talked about it this morning, but the justices limit major SEC tool to penalize fraud. They no longer get to willy-nilly go in there. This is the same thing that the SEC would use when they would catch JP Morgan manipulating silver prices. They would just, bank would defraud people of $100 billion. Banks would. Wells Fargo, open fake accounts, whatever. There was never a court hearing. A committee just got together within the SEC, told them they owed a fine of this. It was a handshake deal throughout the whole thing. And the SEC would pocket the money. The money never went back to the people that were injured or harmed. And it was being used as a punishment. There were a number of companies. A great example would be going back to early 2000s, a network marketing company called Burn Lounge. SEC went after them. cost the company a fortune, bankrupted them. They ended up winning their case. But it didn't matter. They were bankrupt. Cost them millions and millions and millions of dollars, and there was no oversight, no protection. When we look at like Ripple, etc., what we have seen, they nearly buried Ripple. This same law or the same thing that SCOTUS just struck down is going to ruin their ability. Now they actually have to have a day in court instead of just a government committee from on high telling you what doesn't even matter what the law is. So this one to me is a huge one, even for the crypto community, a huge one in general for against the administrative state.
Oh yeah, it's a huge one on a matter of individual freedom. When it comes down to it, I can go out there with the greatest idea in the world. If I have the most amazing business ever, and maybe it's $1 million business, and we're absolutely about to provide something to the world that will benefit everyone, and that's usually where these things come down to. And then all it takes is putting that $1 million company into $1 million legal issue, and you're going to drive them out of business. It's essentially monopolization, or I mean, it's crooked. It's crooked government. It's corporate cronyism. It's a corporatocracy. It's we essentially protect companies that are too big to fail, and then we destroy all the small companies in order to protect the big companies that can't fail. Even when the big companies are providing crappy services, crappy products, well, they still end up lobbying with the most dollars for the politicians. So rather than the politician caring about the fact that they have 30 small businesses in their constituency that are going to be put out of business by their decision, they would rather give Walmart what they want. And it's the same thing, just only occurring inside of a brand new industry. Walmart's an established name. These are the new established names that are being set up, and they're being benefited by the government as they do it.
Had a number of people commenting, guys. I did. As soon as I finished the podcast, I went down for about 2 hours. Exhaustion got me. I'm erupting mucousy fluids from heck. I wouldn't be surprised to see it start dripping out of my fingernails. So if you see me with tissues, I think that is a very good sign, and I think a couple days of rest will have me back in the saddle.
No, it will. You've definitely you've beaten the hump. You're on the downswing on this one.
Yeah, that's right.
Trying to pump yourself up.
Yeah, I wonder, like, and it occurred to me that what we need to make, Zester, I hate that you're not extremely capable of this one. We need to make a spoof video like a Babylon Bee of Joe Biden swinging clubs, trying to get in shape for the Great Golf Challenge. Like maybe, but take it from like Rocky, where you're like putting his face on Rocky's body or whatever, trying to chase the chicken, to catch the chicken, maybe running up the steps, and then instead of doing this at the top, get him there with in the thing where he's punching the hanging meat with his fists, he would be swinging a golf club at it. I just like, wow, this could be a lot of fun to have with the whole golf thing.
There's probably too many fun quotes, fun edits that could be made throughout his debate performance last night. I mean, you could easily go ahead and have, the eye of the tiger as Joe Biden starts to walk out. And then the eye of the tiger ends up distracted, trying to wave to an audience that doesn't exist inside of the place. He's not even at a camera. There's no camera in front of him. He's just waving off into a non-existent group of people that aren't there. I cannot imagine the conversations that are going on inside of the centers of government around the world. I mean, imagine what Iran's government is currently talking about. I mean, they've got nothing going great at the moment, but at the same time, they can at least sit around and take a huge amount of solace in the fact that, well, they don't have to worry about the dumbass that's running the United States.
It's got to be very reassuring for these countries right now. Putin doesn't have to worry about much of anything. I mean, they're just going to keep throwing arms and wasting money, dropping $2 million bombs when they're dropping $2,000 bombs. I mean, it really is. I mean, Kim Jong-un, I mean, it's a great day to be a desperate leader around the country, around the world.
Yeah. I would be the leader, you know, the president of South Sudan or something, being like, well, things aren't great. We have mass famine. We have mass genocide. But you know what we don't have?
Joe Biden.
At least I can have a full conversation with you while the country falls to pieces. You know, there's probably a lot of despotic authoritarians around the planet that are going, well, today was a pretty good day.
Yeah, I didn't notice. Kirkworks said, did anyone notice that Joe and NC today was tanned and last night wasn't?
Oh, now that's a good one. Because of meetings, was not able to watch his earlier one. So all I caught were a few sound bites. That after last night's performance, I honestly would question their logic. If there is an alternate Biden, why would they have put that one up there last night? I mean, I think that the Democrats have just sold out Biden and that they knew he was going to fail, and that essentially the Democratic strategy is to go ahead, place him out on that stage, let the American people, because many, many Americans are not aware of the fact that Joe Biden is deteriorated to this degree. They're not. If they're not watching the kinds of things that we are, if they're not keeping up with the news in the way we are, if they're just watching CNN, MSNBC, from their perspective, this is their first time actually seeing how bad Joe Biden is. They don't know that. There are 100+ million Americans that thought Joe Biden was mentally sound yesterday at around 7 p.m. At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, those 100 million Americans just found out for the first time that their president is out to pasture. And, you know, if we were to place it into, you know, the old terms of, you know, where parents would say the kids went, he went to a farm upstate. He's at the farm upstate. And for many Americans, that's completely new information.
Yeah, no, this is getting wild to watch.
It is. And I think Kukla's right, though. That's probably the saddest thing, because that's something I was starting to feel deeply during the debate, where I wanted him to stop. I wanted him to stop. I wanted him to take him off stage the same way that when kids are playing in baseball or basketball, we have a mercy rule where we go ahead and we say these two people should not be playing on the same team. These two teams should not be playing on the same court. It's not fair, and people are going to get hurt. And honestly, that's kind of the way the debate seemed. We should have been calling mercy rule.
After that one, is it the right thing for Donald Trump to cancel any future debate against Joe Biden and just say, hey, look, that's elder abuse. I can't play this game. Maybe mainstream media can play this game, prop him up and pretend that he is coherent, but this is abuse. I mean, this is it's uncomfortable. I would almost come out with a press statement saying, hey, look, he is clearly not capable. If you would like for me to debate Kamala Harris or whoever his running mate is over policy, because clearly that's going to be who's president if he were to win somehow, you know, magically, even though the polls are saying he's been decimated. If I were the Trump campaign, I would have already released that today, along with clips with him mumbling, losing his train of thought, I was a 6 handicap. Well, no, I was an 8 handicap. I mean, just all the back, the forth, to carry the bag. I mean, they're already, or as Elon Musk said, the greatest winner of the debate was the meme world. The memes have been tremendous.
It is. I think that morally, it's wrong to even put the poor guy out there. He's done tons of terrible things, Joe Biden. He has. But in all honesty, I never am willing to accept the world where when someone's that hit those type of ages, it's not acceptable to ridicule them in that way and to place them on stage. That would be no different than, and what would people say if I went to the Alzheimer's clinic and started debating people and then acted like I was taking big wins because I managed to, confuse someone that is suffering? That's going to, the children's cancer ward and asking everybody to play basketball so you can beat people. It's not right. It's not right. And they knew what they were doing. The Democratic Party knew what they were doing.
Was that as bad as you challenging me to a basketball game to see who was paying for dinner last week?
Hey, I didn't pay for dinner, so it worked out. No, that is a joke, guys. That's
a joke. He wouldn't do that.
I
mean, he does tell me often I should stand up for myself, but
hey, humor is the only thing that makes the world work. And when it comes down to it, the sensitivity that we feel in the world nowadays is a lot of the problem. If we didn't have that same degree of sensitivity, I think it's the reason Joe Biden's currently sitting there. It's because the entire left is too scared to actually say, hey, this guy's not competent, and do something about it. We have Joe Biden because the left is too scared of the general idea of having to have a tough conversation. And instead of having a tough conversation, they'd rather just go ahead and slowly screw all of us in the future.
Sacrifice the entire free world, pretty much,
to protect one sensitive ego. The same way that they would absolutely tell us that we need to all change the way our businesses operated, the way that we speak the English language, so that we can keep one individual snowflake happy. We've taken individualism and the idea that we're each important, and we've placed it over the state, over the community. And I completely agree that we should live in a democracy where any one individual, any minority of any fashion on a specific issue, and I mean on issues, should be protected. Just because you believe one thing doesn't mean that you deserve any degree less in terms of protection from the law. But in this case, we've gone to an extreme point. It's like we're just trying to protect Joe Biden's degree of self-worth when it comes down to it. And to give him full credit in terms of everything, he should just be sitting in a retirement home happy. He should be hanging out with his family. He should be enjoying his retirement. Has he done horrible things to get there? Yes. But at the same time, I don't think it's worth pursuing any of that. It's just better off letting him go off, enjoy the last years. It's punishing. I can't imagine being his son. Well, I can imagine that Hunter Biden's probably too high to care about what's happening to his dad, but I have to imagine there is a member of the Biden family, a son, a cousin, someone who is sitting around and going, hey, this is really wrong. Why are you doing this to my family? Why are you doing this to him? Because I do not believe that the vast majority of these politicians are genuinely evil. I believe that they probably have amazing relationships with some members of their family. I have to imagine there are folks out there that are going, why are we doing this? This is cruel.
Yeah, it is. It's unusual. We got JC there, McKellar. Before the debate, I hated Joe. Now I hate Jill for allowing this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you I don't know if you watched my podcast earlier, but my comments as CNN and those folks were all commentating like, "Oh my God, we really should be demanding answers from his core group, from not only his family but his core advisors. I mean, they had to know that he's this bad. They had to know it." I'm like, the press has been complicit in this from the very first moment. He was nearly this bad in 2020. He was already losing it and wandering off and freezing. Now it has just become more extreme, and they can't gloss it over anymore.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it does come down to the fact, and there was actually I forget who on Fox News actually had a great quote, because nowadays there aren't many great quotes that come out of Fox News, but there was one that was directly to that point, in that nobody in the United States has been aware. Their media and the degree to which people have been so compartmentalized in their own echo chambers at this point that they don't hear any of that information.
It's a great example is, probably 90% of the people that watch CNN still think Russian collusion was real.
Yeah.
They still think that Donald Trump did say they were fools and suckers. They probably still think, they have no idea. All they see is that programming, that propaganda. They're now incapable of doing the independent critical thinking to find out for themselves. They have no idea. Like, oh my God, they're seeing some of these decisions and they're like, why is the court saying this? I watched the committee on this. These things aren't right, because you don't know. They're so brainwashed. They are truly that clueless as to what the reality looks like. I mean, many of them are running around going, my groceries are a little higher, but thank God it's not as bad as it would have been if Trump had been in office. I mean, this is what they've been programmed to think.
It's something where if people haven't woken up, the world they're living in is one where Trump tried to take over the country, destroy democracy. And I am speaking from the perspective of so many people. If they're not watching or looking at anything outside of the news stations they're getting their information from, that's the world, and that's reality. Reality is, to them, Trump tried to destroy the longest lasting democracy in human history, because we are. The United States of America is the longest lasting democracy in world.
Yeah, recorded human history.
And never has there been a world where we had the ability to vote universally in the way that we have as Americans. We are not just the great American experiment. We really are proof that democracy is a reality in terms of governing a people. If we fail, what is the world going to descend into in terms of a government? If the United States fails, the longest lasting democracy on this planet is to fail. And yes, I know we're a republic. I'm not even looking at the comments. I already know they're coming. I'm very aware of our actual governmental structure, but we are a democracy, a representative democracy. And if we are to fail, what is the world going to descend into? And what we're looking at right now is a world where we actually have to start to consider what would happen, what will happen if this fails.
I would like to think that El Salvador or Argentina will become the shining model. I just hope that the world's gotten bad enough. They're like, hey, wait a minute. This is that slow walk into darkness. This is that fading off into the night. And I just will not go quietly into the night.
No. Well, it's the same way. And I know I've had this conversation with so many in my generation that they don't worry about voting. They don't worry about the fact of what's going on in our country, politically, foreign policy wise. They don't worry about it. And they say that it isn't their responsibility. And when it comes down to it, we can go back to Aristotle and Socrates. The reason that they had their first democracy set up the way they were was because they were focused on the fact that it is a moral responsibility to be informed about what's going on in your country. It's a moral responsibility to agree or disagree with what your country is doing because it is your fault. Ultimately, what our country chooses to do is on our moral conscience. It is us. Whether we voted for them or not, when our country goes out and it bombs an innocent village, it is, in some small part of a way, our fault. And that is not something that we need to hyper focus on. It's just a philosophical idea to keep in mind, in that we are responsible for our politicians' actions. And that means that the people that are continuing to support Joe Biden and are continuing to support the Democratic Party right now are all morally obligated to take some degree of culpability for what's happening. They are supporting a president who is out to pasture. That shouldn't be a detriment on him. That's how life works. But they are supporting evil. And
we look at this, and I know, and a lot of you guys are like, wait, I come here for just crypto. We did discuss the SEC case, which is going to have just the enormous SCOTUS case on the SEC. It's going to have a huge impact on the industry. But I am kind of curious, Trump being presently around the world now, the crypto space is rallying behind him. I mean, he's getting donations from Indonesia, from Africa, because they know if we set up a banking system that is crypto friendly, Europe follows, Asia follows. I mean, right now he is. So I'm kind of curious, how are the crypto markets responding today? We're seeing a shifting of assets in other stocks. I don't know where the stock market ended up. I've checked it once or twice in between. Trying to recover, ended up 45 points down, not too bad. But there was a lot of shifting of assets. They were going more energy, more commodity, preparing for a growth cycle. These when industries, they'll invest in inflation-based bonds, things like that, when they say things are going to go bad. But I saw a lot of movement towards industrialization and commodities. So for me, I can tell you that the big markets around the world are like feeling better and better about a Trump win, which I'm interested to see, what does that mean? What's happening on the crypto, or at least on the meme coins based on Joe Biden or Trump today? Have you looked?
Oh no. All of the pro-Trump meme coins have absolutely exploded. Just because there's really no longer even a debate to be had. And I was looking at these numbers earlier. The gambling on the blockchain, because this is something I've covered a few times, Pops, is that the blockchain gambling has been favoring Trump now for months by a large portion. The numbers now are going absolutely nuclear in regards to the disparity between the votes. Anybody voting on Joe Biden now is essentially betting on, a 1 to 200 type gamble. And so, the markets are absolutely making that indication, and the markets all around. Crypto on the whole is struggling hard today. We see Bitcoin at 60,000 and it's struggling to keep 60K. In all honesty, Bitcoin probably is not going to manage 60K in the next 24 hours. It's probably going to lose it. And a large degree of this is the fact that global markets are now terrified because the United States president walked out on stage, and we're worried about whether he managed to make it home. I mean, Jill had to walk him out of the place. And that's why in this situation on the Crazy Kryptonite, typically we just follow crypto news. Today, the debate from last night is influencing all of our markets. It's not whether it's crypto or traditional finance or whether it's anything else. We're all getting affected, no matter what sector we may be in. Compliments of the debate last night, every market is struggling because now it's not just those of us that are awake in the United States that know what's going on. It's all of the United States, and it's everybody in foreign countries who just watched what was supposed to be the greatest example of democracy on the planet work out in real time. You know, people from Argentina, people from Brazil, people from every nation of the European Union, people from all over the planet, every country, every nationality, everywhere tuned in, and they watched the United States president, as far as they are concerned,
leader of the free world,
the guy with well, what we hope, and I really do hope that it's true, is that there is not a nuclear football following him around, but ultimately that is the person that everyone on the planet watched last night wander around that stage. And to say the degree to which we have destroyed our nation's very identity, you know, we should be respected. How would you ever respect us following what we have gone through in the past 10 years, Pops? That would be a great question. What would we need to do to be respected on a global stage again?
I mean, if you're international or whatever, and you would have to think. I mean, to me, it's a logical leap, a logical development for you to go, you know, Americans are probably pretty daggone stupid. They think this guy's coherent and they voted him to power. I mean, they've got to be thinking this around the world. I mean, there's probably, you know, people in Japan, there's probably people in Peru going, holy smokes, are all Americans this dumb? Because, you know, what they see in the news is, oh, he's just wildly popular. I mean, he got more votes than anybody in the history of their nation. I mean, they've got to be scratching their heads going, whew, I don't know why we look up to that country. These people are idiots. But on that one, it was CNN's numbers were not spectacular, but it was the most watched presidential debate in American history. It was just watched on Rumble. It was watched on Twitter. It was watched on YouTube. It was watched pretty much about everywhere but CNN. So we have the most watched around the world. I don't know if there is even a way to assemble the numbers. I know the numbers were roughly 100 million between the different ones on X, on Twitter, where it was being streamed, where people were watching. That wasn't counting YouTube, wasn't counting Rumble, which had major issues on bandwidth because of the number of restreams on it last night.
I can't think of a U.S. presidential debate that I would more not have wanted the world to have seen. That's the one that if I were to look at any presidential debate, I know that we've had references made to debates that Ronald Reagan had with other folks, where the other person just completely pooped the bed. We have the relations to events in terms of some of Nixon's debates, where they're saying, these were shames on the American identity. But there has never been a more shameful. There's never been a more shameful stream where people in the world are watching the United States president in the same way that they did last night. It's never happened. We've never had that.
And I've seen a number of people comment just for CNN. I mean, I definitely have a few problems with the coverage, but for the most part, they were really pretty solid and neutral. And that to me was a clear sign that a decision was made from on high to let Joe Biden implode. They figured out this dog won't hunt. This horse won't run. They made the very aware decision to let him implode and to sacrifice him. or it would have been heavily weighted against Trump, far more than it was. They made the decision to let Joe. It was a coup. You watched a coup
Yeah.
happen.
Yep. There's no way that CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow was out there talking about how bad of a job Joe Biden did. When Rachel Maddow is saying that Trump did a better job than Joe, that's a conspiracy. That is they've been running this though for years. They lied to us about vaccines. They lied to us about the election. They have lied to us throughout the whole time, and now they're just throwing him into the trash. They did all of this for Joe Biden. That's what they claim. All of this was because Joe Biden was such an amazing leader that was going to do such great things. And that was their logic. Is that, okay, it's worth ignoring the problems in his past. It's worth giving him the benefit of the doubt. And they maintained that narrative for 8 years. Well, 7 years. They maintained that narrative for 7 years. And now they're throwing him out in the trash. And there is, I absolutely agree, Pops. There is no way that was not intentionally done. I think that the Democratic Party knew they were throwing him out to slaughter last night.
No, they absolutely knew. Guys, I'm fighting the urge to cough. I'm going to step out and leave you on your own.
Mm-hmm. No. Thank you, Pops, for jumping in.
And for the rest of you, I'll see you in the morning at 10 a.m.
Oh, so you're not doing your 7?
No, I'm not doing the 7. We've already canceled it, called it off. Well, I say 10, 9:45 tomorrow. Looking forward to having the CBD gurus. I feel like I'll be pretty much up to speed for tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, I'll talk to you soon, Pops. Love you.
Love you.
All right, everybody. I know that today we got a little bit off in terms of our normal conversation, but there was an opportunity to be jumped on to have the original Mark Z on here and to talk about what had occurred in terms of the debate, because it's affecting every market. At this point in time, it doesn't matter whether you're a crypto investor, traditional finance, a homeowner, somebody with a retirement fund. Every single number just went into the red. Compliments of Joe Biden's performance last night. And so we're all going to have to try and start to, deal with the repercussions of having a president that needs to be replaced. And I think that is one of the great conversations to be had, is who is going to replace him? What person on the left even has the capability of jumping in, having enough name recognition, having enough swat vivre, or whatever it is, to actually go out there and try to take over the presidential spot? And how are they going to handle the legal issues? Because ultimately, at this point in time, for a presidential candidate of the Democratic Party, the incumbent president, to actually step out of the running, it's not possible. It's not possible. If Joe Biden tomorrow were to say that he is dropping out, the laws in the states on an electoral level would not allow for a new Democratic candidate to jump into the same position. It's not legally allowed. And so now the Democratic Party has got to be panicking, because they have no ability to cycle another person in. They can't just bring in the new guy that's really popular and be like, hey, everybody listen to what he said, ignore everything Biden said. That's not possible. And so what are they going to do, guys? I would really love to hear from the community. on what y'all are thinking in regards to what the Democratic Party is going to do in the coming weeks, because they can't just rotate in another person. I know many people are putting that out there and they're saying, oh, don't worry about it. The Dems are just going to put in another candidate. That's not how the law works. That's not how the law works. It is not an option. Joe Biden will be on the election in 2024 unless, and there is only one way, that he is removed from the campaign, and that is a matter of Joe Biden passing away. That is the only way. Otherwise, at this point in time, because of the way the system works, his name must be on the ballot. Not a question, not a doubt. In a very large amount of states, it is literally the law. He must be on the ballot. And so what is going to occur? They can't get rid of him. Well, they can. And I imagine there's going to be a few comments about the Clinton list. I mean, the Clintons know how to solve the problem, but that's not the right thing to do. And that's the only way. Unless Joe Biden passes away before November 5th, they cannot rotate in another candidate. That's not how the law works. If they manage to change that, we have a far larger problem, because ultimately there is no option. Either there is no more Joe Biden, or Joe Biden's on the ballot. Now, the Democratic Party can run another candidate. And so the Democratic Party could go out there and they could run, which I personally believe will be Whitmer from Michigan. I know many folks have their own opinions on that one, but I believe it would be Whitmer from Michigan. They could run Whitmer. Say they do run her at the same time in parallel with Joe Biden. That's going to split the vote. That's going to destroy their chances. And what are they going to do? And so I'm going to go through some of the comments. Do understand I have to be a little bit careful with the words that I choose to use, because ultimately what we are talking about is that the Democratic Party may literally be hoping that Joe Biden passes away. Because if he does not pass away, he legally must be on the ballot. And so if he passes away, the law would then ensure that he is removed from the ballot. And so do keep in mind, I'm going to be very careful with my verbiage in regards to this conversation. And yes, it is Kukla. I hate to think that, Cesar, but there is no other option. What else is there to be done? We're at a point in time where I want the Democratic Party to have a good candidate. I want them to have a good candidate. I am not in any way obligated to one party. I will choose the person who is best. And so I wish they had an amazing candidate to put out there, but they don't. And the best one they do have, Gina Fay, is Whitmer is an idiot. I absolutely agree with you, Gina. I agree. But when it comes down to it, the Democratic Party is about to have to make a major decision. And the only way they can circumnavigate this is for Joe Biden to drop out, and then for them at convention to vote on a statewide level to replace the candidate. That's the only way this can be done legally. And it will still mean that Joe Biden is on the ballot. But it will at least allow them to have 2 Democratic candidates on the ballot. And that really is their only option. And if they don't choose to do that immediately, they don't have a choice. And Kukla, I'm sorry for other folks. I keep highlighting some of Kukla's. Kukla's had some great questions this evening. Can they use the 25th Amendment? See, if they utilize the 25th Amendment and they remove Joe Biden from office. Now, first things first, that means Kamala Harris is president. Which, in all honesty, I would rather have, out to pasture over evil, because I believe Kamala Harris is the embodiment of evil. And so, first things first is right there. Second thing is, that's not how the ballots work. And so, because we have gotten so close to the election, keep in mind, guys, the election is a matter of what? 3 months and some days away. 4 months and some days away. It's June 28th. We're looking at November. It's too close. You can't remove Joe Biden from the ballot. It's not legal anymore. And so they can't replace him. They have to run Joe Biden. The only thing they can do is for Joe Biden to no longer be. And so, honestly, I think one of the most important things for us to keep an eye on is the fact that the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, and the deep state may push or may pay to ensure that that problem is no longer a problem. And I'm not going to say what I'm saying. I'm going to try to avoid the conversation. And so I am picking my words extremely carefully, but I am guessing that the Democratic Party will ensure that the problem is, if Joe Biden is alive, they cannot run another candidate. The Democratic Party may ensure that happens. And so, Jill, what if he won't step down? Well, Jill, see, that's where it gets really confusing, because the laws, even if Joe Biden said, I'm not running, Joe Biden comes out and he says, I am not running for president. In the vast majority of states, his name would still be on the ballot, because that's the way the law works. The only situation that removes a person's name from the ballot is them no longer being on this plane. That's the only way a person is removed from the ballot at this point in time. If you have made it through an election cycle to this point, the only way to take you off the ballot is to take you off this planet. That's it. And that means we're about to watch some of the most interesting American politics that could ever be imagined, because the Democratic Party is about to start panicking. And they are, well, we already know they are panicking, but they're about to start panicking in far more erratic fashions. They're going to be running around claiming this candidate, that candidate, anything, everything, anything they can do. Because ultimately, the laws have them trapped. if they want to try and circumnavigate this, we're about to enter into a legal nightmare. Because Robert Chandler, it's like a rat in a hot cage. It is. It absolutely is. The Democratic Party is. I'm avoiding my French in regards to the words I would use, but in all honesty, those curse words are probably the right answer, because where the Democratic Party is sitting right now is an entire degree of screwed. They're screwed. Whatever they are about to do after this debate catastrophe is going to be a matter of a rat trying to run out of a burning cage. That is the Democratic Party right now, Robert. I think that essentially what you just said is the Democratic Party. It is the Democratic Party in a hot cage, and there is no exit. And what are they going to be willing to do to try to dig out of it? That's really going to be what it all comes down to. What is the Democratic Party willing to do to try to dig out of this hole? Because they've lost. The election's over. Trump won. It's over. There's nothing more to watch. There's nothing more to pay attention to. If we were to have the vote tomorrow and we were to just show every single voter the performance between Joe Biden and Donald Trump on the debate stage, it would be a meteoric landslide. 90+% would vote for Trump in a legitimate election. And yeah, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to figure out, though, because we don't know. How is the Democratic Party going to react? That, I think, is going to be the most important part to focus on in the coming weeks. It won't really be what's going on, because Trump, in all honesty, Trump's performance in the debate was amazing. It was great. It was not perfect. Trump could have done better, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter in the slightest. When your competition does so poorly that no one's even paying attention to you, the focus is on what they're going to do. And so I'm honestly looking to, and M. Wells, I think that was actually perfectly timed. What about RFK? In all honesty, if I were the Democratic Party and I were trying to actually compete, I actually wanted to have a chance of winning, and I didn't care about my own pride, I would put my support behind RFK if I were the Democratic Party. I would. I mean, it's the closest thing they can get to not Trump, and that's what they want. But in all honesty, I don't think that we really are sitting at a point where these type of conversations are being had anymore. RFK makes more sense for having conversations with Trump than he does for siding with the left. RFK, in terms of his policy points, is far more conservative than he is liberal. And that, maybe they're going to try that. Maybe we're going to see Joe Biden try to push towards having RFK come on to the Democratic ticket. If I were a Democratic strategist right now and I wanted to win the election, and so we'll do this as a thought experiment. If I were, say, a Democratic strategist and I wanted to win this election against Trump no matter what, and I mean no matter what, I needed to win this election, I would actually bring RFK in as the presidential candidate, and then I would back RFK up with Whitmer from Michigan. if I really were and I were working for the Democratic Party and we're playing out a scenario here, that's what I would do. I would actually go immediately and I would say, RFK, you're the Democratic candidate. Whitmer, you're the vice president. And we're going to run you on the Democratic ticket. And we're going to go ahead and absorb RFK's natural amount of support because he's a Kennedy. And as Americans, we seem to support Kennedys no matter what, even when they don't deserve it. And so, and I do kind of like RFK. I do kind of like the guy. I don't think he's a bad person. I think that he genuinely wants to help, but they would play off of those things. He's a Kennedy, and we can pair him with Whitmer, who's a Rust Belt Democrat. They would actually stand a chance in the election. They would genuinely stand a chance in the election if they ran RFK and Whitmer under the Democratic ticket. They would. And we'd actually get to have a real conversation between Trump and the left. Because right now, we're not having that conversation. We're not even having it. And Jill, I don't like RFK's stances on things. I agree, Jill. I absolutely agree. But what I would just state is that RFK, from everything that's been presented from the left so far, is the most coherent, the most understandable, and the most understanding. I believe RFK cares about Americans. I don't trust him or believe in many of the things he believes, but I believe he actually cares about America. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to pick candidates based off of such trivially stupid things, such as that. The general fact that he believes, and I truly do believe that RFK cares about Americans. I disagree with his politics. I don't believe his politics at all. You know, we don't, it's no kumbaya from a political standpoint, but at least he cares about us. And he may be wrong in how he chooses to care, but that's a hell of a lot better than what we're getting from Biden's administration and everything else. We're getting a group of people that not only do not care about us and do not care about Americans, but they are actively trying to screw us. And that's a big difference. When it comes down to it, I am never going to and do not ever want to in any way befoul the name of people that care about Americans, regardless of the fact that I do not agree with their politics. I have friends that are extreme liberals. That is not a problem to me. That's what the United States is about. Our country is based around freedom. And that means we need to represent everyone, regardless of whether we agree on who the president should be. The problem is, right now, it's not a matter of supporting democracy. It's a matter of good and evil. And right now, we have one evil that we have got to defeat. And that evil is the current Democratic political establishment, the Democrats' political establishment. That is true evil. We have evil Republicans out there in the House and the Senate. We have evil independents out there in the system. But ultimately, in terms of the presidential race, I believe we have one evil, and it's not Joe Biden. He's not evil. He can't remember what the definition of evil is. I'm pretty certain you can't be evil if you can't define the word evil. But the people that are propping him up, the organizations, the corporations, the political actors that are ensuring that he has the support that he does, they are evil. They're not just kind of evil. They are real evil. And they are supporting him, pushing his campaign, and forcing these political decisions down Americans' throats. That's what we need to be defending against. I'm not scared of RFK. I'm not scared of anything in regards to it. I'm terrified of the idea of 4 more years with this current administration. I'm terrified of that. And I genuinely do not believe we would make it out. I really don't think we would. I don't think that the United States of America would make it out of another 4 years of Joe Biden. If we somehow ended up under 4 years of RFK, and I'm talking in crazy degrees of scenarios, if somehow that crap happened, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But say it did, our nation would survive. The United States would still be the United States. But if we have Biden for 4 more years, we are not going to be the United States anymore. We are going to be the divided states of America. And we're going to face what I imagine would be our second 1865 would occur if we were to see another Biden administration. And I think that's the degree of seriousness that the situation deserves. There's no other way to look at it. Ultimately, we're at a crossroads, and either we're going to choose to head down the right path, or we're going to choose to head down to the road of authoritarianism and dystopian. It's going to be a dystopian future. The same way that they love showing us dystopian movies all the time at this point. Yes, Kukla, Zester, we will not have Biden for 4 more years. Trump will win. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is nothing to stop it. At this point, it will not just be a landslide. It will be an avalanche. They will be buried in red. And when I say buried in red, I mean Republican red, buried in elephants, not buried in donkeys. Yeah, no, and so guys, I know that we have gone off on a whole different path. Thank you all so much for joining this evening. We have had some awesome conversations in regards to the debate. I cannot wait to continue them because there is a lot more to dig into, in all honesty. Throughout the debate, I was taking notes. I have about 10 sheets of notes and commentary in regards to what occurred, because it was Trump. I think Trump could have done better. I do. And there's actually a few points where I have some fairly critical statements in regards to Trump. But he destroyed Joe Biden. The only thing I wanted was for Trump to say even more. But otherwise, absolutely, Trump destroyed. We are not even looking at a close to a competition in November. What we need to be keeping an eye on are the funny moves that are about to occur. Because we're about to watch the Democratic Party go through essentially a conniption fit, where they're going to start throwing out candidates' names and they're going to start seeing how people respond. It's going to be insanity. It's going to be insanity. And so, thank you guys all so much for tuning in this evening. I hope that you're having an absolutely wonderful, wonderful Friday. Please go out and enjoy it. Whether that's sitting at home and watching something on TV or on YouTube. Heck, you could go and watch some more crypto educational content. But in all honesty, I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest going out and enjoying your evening because you should be celebrating. You should be celebrating. We just won the 2024 election. We just won it. We won 2024 last night. I think people should be far more damn excited about the fact that we just won the election. All we need to do is protect our win. That's all we need to do. Protect our win. We've already won. All we have to do is not screw up. This is the same idea as let's imagine, NBA basketball. It's the end of the third quarter. We're up by 50. All we have to do is walk out onto the court and not screw up. That's it. And we've got this. We've got this one. So make certain you're ready to vote. Make certain you're telling everyone in your family about the day and that they need to go vote. And it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in this evening. I know that everything will be back to normal scheduling starting tomorrow for the original MarkZ. And so you will be able to see the OGMZ tomorrow at normal timings. Other than that, I will be talking to everyone very, very soon. Y'all, please have an amazing evening. And also be happy and excited. I am not happy and excited because the Democratic Party is failing. Be happy and excited because truth, freedom, and reality is going to be back in power, in full power, in public view very, very soon. Thank you, guys.